Hey guys, what's up? Redman80 here, and today I'm going to be doing the post-draft power rankings with my friend Damon.
Hi, I'm Damon.
Socrates of the Vespertine Park Rangers was supposed to be doing the power rankings this season, but due to him being MIA at the moment, Damon will be filling in until further notice.
Yep.
And I would normally just be doing the weekly recaps, but considering this is the post-draft power rankings, I decided, both of us should probably give our 2 cents.
And considering we are going to have very differing opinions, I was not here last season, and I have a very poor memory, so I'm going pretty much solely based on the draft alone, whereas Red Matt here has a little bit more experience with the skill of the coaches and what teams they excel at using.
Yep, so let's get right on to it, and I'm going to start off with the DMR Shadow Absols at my number 12. Cedric has did not do. Cedric has had a shaky league experience. Back during the NBL, which is the first league he was in, he did all right. Didn't make playoffs, but he was like just out of playoffs. And then during the PICA, he did not do well. He went 1-10 last season, being the second worst player next to the Manhattan Manectrics, who were unwinnable. So the main problem with his team last season was that he was all offensive, almost no bulk at any point. And what did he do this season? He drafted again a pretty offensive team, and while he does have more walls this time, again like last season, they don't have very good synergy. He has Jellicent and Quagsire, which are both bulky water types, and they're not gonna really help. I mean, he has bulkier mons this season, like he has Nidoqueen, and he again redrafted Latios, I mean, and also has Mega Altaria. But I do think that his team is just not bulky enough, and not yeah, just not it's just not bulky enough. Hyper offense doesn't work out that well in league format unless you really know how to do it, and I'm not sure Cedric can pull it off. But who knows?
I do have a higher opinion of Cedric's draft, but that's for a later point. Right now, I'm going to focus on my 12th pick, which was the Berkhamsted Bastions, coached by Gargleflop. My main problem with his team is a huge ice weakness. He has triple flying types, double dragon types, a few 4 times weaknesses, and Mega Skeptile and Garchomp. He's got double Volt Switchers and Zapdos and Nextzone, and honestly, I don't see him needing this Steel Trap that much with the ground type from Garchomp, the Fire type from Dimension. His walls are almost non-existent. Zapdos is bulky as people give it credit for, but it doesn't have the walling capability that we really need in league format. And I don't think he has the right sweepers to get in there. He does have some U-turn and Volt Switch, but honestly, he's kind of lacking in the speed. He's kind of lacking in bulky offensive kind of areas, and I think that he'll just be easily broken down game and game again.
I can see your point there, but I do think that Richard does have a good does know how to use his team, and I think he'll be able to do well with it. But I'll talk about more of that in my upcoming one of my upcoming picks. So with my 11th pick, I have the South Park Electrodes, coached by Tempest, and I don't know. I don't like his team. I just really don't like his team. I don't like multiple typings in league format, and he has a bunch of multiple typings, and that bugs me. That might just be a personal nitpick, but I do think it does hinder your team versatility. And to be fair, his the mons that have multiple typings, they do function differently. Like he's got Embor and Rotom Heat, which both function pretty differently. He's got Azumarill and Mega Slowbro, which function pretty differently. He's got Amoonguss and Executor, which function pretty differently as well. But there's just so many same typings that it's a bit obnoxious, and it's just doesn't seem like it's gonna work. Sure, he has powerful attackers like Mamoswine and Embor, as well as good walls like Slowbro, Mega Slowbro, and Amoonguss. But I don't know. I just don't think like he'll be able to really use them to their full potential because of how samey his team is.
I do also agree with most of those points, and I do kind of like his team a bit better because of the different roles and everything. My number 11 was the Sequim Malamars, if that's how you pronounced it.
It's Squim
But
Malamar.
Sequim Malamar. Alright,
Yeah,
I was
it's
close.
Squim. It basically pronounced it without the e.
Skin. Okay.
Yeah, Squim.
Lessons of pronunciation. If I needed it, you needed it. But
Mm.
yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot to say about his draft. His fastest mon is Mega Latias. Not Mega, sorry, just regular Latias. And Latias itself is not as strong as people make it out to be. It's not as strong offensively, and it does have some good bulk, but honestly, I don't think he needs it with his Ferrothorn, Sylveon, Mega Blastoise. And he has some great bulk with those cores along with Arcanine. Electivire being a great bulky attacker. They're just be having some surprising bulk in Gastron as well. My problem is that he has little to no offensive presence. He has no speed, like I mentioned before, and his regular mons, besides a few wall breakers, have not a lot of fast offensive presence. Almost all of the stuff that he needs to consistently run offensively can be outsped and basically beaten in a 2-ko or a 1-ko by most offensive mons. And I mean, yeah, it's basically it. I'm not a huge fan of the water, fire, steel. You know the cores, the Fairy Steel Dragon, water, fire, grass cores that he did end up finishing.
I can see those points that I can see those points. The lack of speed, the weak cores in your opinion, but I'll get into him when it's my turn. Next up, next up, let me just check it, make sure I'm not saying this wrong. Yep, okay. Next up is I have the Denver Dashers at number 10, and Jesus has a pretty good team. He's got some nice offense, but well, his team is Mega Lopunny, Keldeo, Suicune, Dragalge, Tangrowth, Regirock, Rotom, Tornadus, Darien, Reuniclus, Zoroark, and Typhlosion. We probably should have done that for the other teams, but live and learn. Uh, but yeah, he's got some good offense and things like Mega Lopunny, Keldeo, and Zoroark, and as well as good pivots like Rotom and Tornadus Darien, as well as pretty decent walls like Suicune, Tangrowth, and Regirock. There's just something missing. Oh yeah, it's hazard removal. Yeah, he forgot to draft hazard removal. Well, it was more I because I was drafting for him during the draft, and I messed up and forgot to draft him hazard removal. And that's a pretty key component in the draft format. Every other team does have a form of hazard removal, and the fact that Jesus doesn't kind of makes that a weakness people are gonna exploit. Citing examples, back last year when the Middle Earth Magmortars didn't have some sort of hazard removal, people abused that and were able to get a lot of wins off of Josh, and I feel like that might happen to Jesus. Now now Jesus is a pretty good battler, but this is his first time in a league style format, so I'm not sure how well he's gonna hold up. I'm hoping he does well, but I'm just gonna leave him this low because I'm not sure how well he'll do.
Now, I think you're not placing enough faith in Jesus.
It's again pronounced Jesus.
It's Jesus. But
Alright.
I can definitely see that, and we'll get into why I think is a little bit better later. But I put the Middle Earth Magmortars at my number 10 spot. It was mentioned, but Science Guy Josh YT drafted Kieran Black, Mega Manectric, Excadrill, Fortis, Swampert, Mienshao, Yanmega, Magmortar, Talonflame, Rotom-Mow, and Bronzong. My main problem with this one is now a lack of bulk. I criticized lack of offense from the Burkhead instead Bastionons, and now I'm going to criticize lack of bulk. He doesn't have the offensive pressure that he thinks he has. Talonflame is good offensively, but it can be beaten by some good walls. And Kieran Black is not as strong as people make it out to be. 120 special attack without stab on a lot of special attacks, such as Focus Blast and Earth Power, does make it wallable. It's very scary, but I believe if someone can plan for it correctly, his team is pretty easy to counter. And he does have some pretty easily exploitable weaknesses, including such as to ground and stealth rocks, like previously mentioned. Excadrill, in my opinion, is not reliable hazard removal, considering it's usually run offensively, and if you have both the stealth rocks and the rock slope and the rapid spin, then you only have room for basically Earthquake and Iron Head, which is not very good in league format when you want to run as much coverage as possible to be able to hit everything that they could possibly bring.
Yeah, I see your points, and I actually have the Middle Earth Magmortars as my number 9, so we didn't fall too short off on that on our plane of thinking.
Transitions are nice.
Yeah, his offense is I think his offense is pretty potent as it is, and I do agree that he does have a lack of defense. Like he has Florges, Swampert, Rotom-Mow ish, and Bronzong.
The Rotoms items are certainly less bulky than people give them credit for, but they can also take a variety of resisted hits. So it's kind of a
It's a pivot. It's a pivot.
Surprising sometimes, both in a good and bad way.
Yeah, it's basically a pivot.
I
But
guess what I'll use it for, definitely.
But yeah, but considering his only hazard removal is extra drill, which like you said is commonly run in an offensive role, I think rocks are going to be a major problem for him. He has Cure on black and Magmortar who are weak to rocks, and then he has Yen Mega and Talonflame who are quad weak to rocks. So yeah, rocks are going to be a definite issue for him. And also, I feel like this team. I like the South Park Electrodes. This team also has a few same typings. We got Fire with Magwater and Talonflame, Electric with Mega Manetric and Rotom. I think that's it. Oh no, Flying with Talonflame and Yin Mega. I don't know. This team looks like has a decent amount of offensive threats, just like his team last year. But I do think that he's gonna struggle with having less than stellar defensive options and a very lack of hazard removal, which was what happened last year.
Well, speaking of the South Park Electrodes, they are my number 9 pick, and although Tempest got pretty hyped about his picks, I don't see a whole lot to be hyped about in his draft. Like you mentioned before, dual typings are everywhere on this team. But I agree, they do make planning pretty easy, as common weaknesses are something you always want to look for against another team in the league. It makes coverage so much easier, especially against offensive things. Yeah, he does have kind of a lack of speed. His fastest thing being Heliolisk, I believe, which does not break 110.
Yeah, it only reaches 109.
Yeah, which is something you always want. I think 110 is kind of like the standard fast speed. Like anything above 110 is super fast. Anything below is medium. But that's a different argument. Azumarill has fantastic wall breaking potential, and Mega Slowbro is a fantastic wall. But he's gonna need to really bring some good sets to overcome the common weaknesses he has on his team. Honestly, I see him bringing the same mons week in, week out. I don't really see him using certain mons a lot, such as the Executor or Scrafty.
I give him faith in using Scrafty, but I think Executor is going to be a guaranteed bench warmer for this team.
Which is weird because he has 2 fire types.
That was a pun, and I'm ashamed of you.
You know what? I'm allowed to make puns.
Whatever.
Alright, go on to your number 8. Actually, we share the number 8, Jackson Jumpluff.
Oh yeah, we do. Which is that the only one we share?
I'm not sure. We can talk about it first, though.
Good point. Yeah. All right. So Jackson Jumpluff is number 8. I think that Jackson Jumpluff drafted a pretty average team, honestly. Like there are some flaws, but I think this team could be used to good use. Mega Mancham is a scary mega that should always be feared for. It's got basically base 200 attack. And with a pretty wide range of moves, it can definitely threaten a lot of mons. Oh, his team's Mega Mancham, Skarmory, Gyarados, Porygon 2, Galvantula, Escavalier, Seismitoad, Tyranitar, Farfigrius, Nidoking, and Jumpluff. Yeah, a lot of teams drafted their mascots this season.
I believe it was 4.
Let's see, Tyrannosaurus, Bastiodons.
Well, I mean, while he's talking, Jumpluff is a pretty bad mascot to draft. Doesn't do a whole lot for your team. And one crucial thing that he's missing is a lot of speed. Mega Medicham is a great mega, but because it is a mega, you can't put a choice scarf on it. And so that really means you need to have something to outspeed bigger threats, and he doesn't have a whole lot to that besides a Dragon Dance Gyarados.
Yeah, to be fair, the only mon that breaks 100 on his team is Galvantula, but Galvantula does get access to Takeaway, which means he's probably going to bring that a lot to his matches, which means people are going to be bringing Rapid Spinners or Defoggers, which means that, again, Galvantula kind of is useless then.
He does have a good spin blocker in Cofagrigus, but he has no Defog blocker. If he had drafted Bisharp, I would have been a whole lot more praising of his team, especially in place of Skarmory, which I don't really see him using a whole lot.
Bisharp Mega Medicham core, that would have been amazing.
That would have been good. But, yeah, just he does have kind of a lack of offense unless he gets the sticky web up. Looking at his hazard control, I do think he will be able to get it off, but I don't see rapid spin. So he might have to just take the residual damage in order to keep those sticky webs up. Nidoking is good. I would have liked to see Nidoking for the extra bulk on his team, as he does need that bulky attacker. And Nidoking the extra power it offers isn't really going to be useful on his team when he already has a lot of good bulky attackers such as Escavalier and Tyranitar.
Yeah, and one last sticking point I do have with this team is that there were a lot of quad weaknesses. Gyarados with electric, Escavalier with fire, Seismitoad with grass, Tyranitar with fighting, and Jumpluff with ice. Which means there's going to be a lot of tech moves on all opposing team members just to kill them, which does hamper his team a bit.
I would also like to add he doesn't really have a special wall outside of Porygon 2, which is weak to fighting, so he can switch in the Cofagrigus, but we'll see that pans out for him. Next up is your number 7, I believe.
Yes, which I actually have as the Berkhamsted Bastions, which you had as your last pick.
Oh.
So I'm taking into account basically how they did last year as well. So the Berkhamsted Bastions made it to playoffs last season, and they did lose in the first round, but they still made it, and they proved that they can use a team that looks strange and still make it. Because back during the original post draft power rankings of season 1, Burke and Xavier actually placed the Berkhamsted Bastions, I believe, in last place. Either that or the Squim Malamars. But either way, the Berkhamsted Bastions team is Crobats, Mega Sceptile, Garchomp, Magnezone, Tentacruel, Darmanitan, Ambipom, Aromatisse, Zapdos, Bastiodon, and Hawlucha. I do see a lot of mons that he is familiar with, things like Crobat, Zapdos, Bastiodon. I've seen him use those pretty well, and I think he's going to use them again well this season. And then he also has he also has a good offensive mons like Garchomp, Darmanitan, Magnezone, Hawlucha, Mega Sceptile. These mons are very strong offensively and do have a decent and are pretty decent at wall breaking. Not to mention he also has pretty good walls and things like Aromatisse and Bastiodon. And he can also run Tank Chop. Yes, there aren't that many Wally mons on his team, but to be honest, there weren't that many Rolling Mons on his team last season, and I think he knows how to use these Mons well enough to where I think he's gonna manage to pull off some wins. Not sure how many wins he's gonna pull off this season, but I do have faith in him that he's gonna do pretty well.
Well, I mean, clearly Xavier and Burke did not know what they were doing since they are not still here, but faith in you for your belief in Burke and Bastions. Next up is my number 7. I have Nick, the so-called leader of PICA, and Iowa Focus.
He's more of a puppet head.
Stop! You're undermining his authority.
All right, let's get on with this.
All right. Rocks are a pretty big weakness to his team. Weavile loves to run Focus Sash, and Mega Charizard Y takes 50% at both stages, Mega and Unmega. He has a lot of special attackers, and Weavile is a good physical attacker, but I don't really see anything else to back it up.
Hariyama.
Well, there is Hariyama, but that's slow and a different argument. Donphan will likely need to be run defensively, and it's not that great of a defensive wall with no reliable recovery. It can do some work, especially with Stealth Rock and Rapid Spin and the sturdy ability to stop any potential sweeps, but I would have liked to see something better in that slot. Now, I don't think his draft is bad. He does have a few common types, especially in Starmie and Lantern, two of his probably most prominent Pokemon, seeing as he needs them both for walls and electric volt switching outside of Magneton. It's certainly not a bad draft, and I do think I actually really like this draft. It's just that there are others that I think that are better than it.
Fair enough. Let's move on to my number 6, which is the Second Malamars, which have Mega Blastoise, Sylveon, Ferrothorn, Machamp, Arcanine, Skuntank, Electivire, Dickersby, Gastrodon, Xatu, and Latias.
We are not good at reciting the teams.
Yeah, we keep forgetting to do that. Our bad. Anyway. So I was actually double drafting. Like, I was drafting both the Squim Malamars and the Denver. If they've seen the draft, they know this.
All right.
Yeah, so I was actually double drafting for both these teams because both of them could not make it, or at least make the full draft. And so they gave me a list of what they want. Well, Andy did at least. Anyway, and he wanted the team he gave me was actually a very balanced team. There were a few mons here that didn't really fit well, and so I did help change that accordingly. But overall, I think the team that he ended up with in the end is very balanced and very usable. Because he has a very good Fire Water Grass core, at least bulk wise, and very good Fairy Steel and Dragon core. He's got two different ways of getting rid of hazards in Blastoise and Latias, as well as a Magic Bouncer in Xatu. He's got two ground. He's got two. He does have two ground types, which is a bit of a hamstring, as well as two water types. Well, both of those stem from having Gastrodon. But what are you gonna do? Overall, I think his team is very good with offensive mons like Mega Blastoise, Electivire, Diggersby, and Latias to a degree to punch some holes in walls and teams, and some bulky things like Ferrothorn, Arcanine, and Gastrodon to take hits pretty well. Overall, I think he's going to be a very I'm not going to say average, but he's gonna get consistent wins. I think with this team.
All right. Well, next up is my number 6, and I had Faith in Jesus, as I'm gonna have to call it from now on. But I think I really like this draft, and honestly, it's just because of his power. He's got a lot of scary mons. Suicune is an incredibly forgiving wall. It can tank most wall breakers pretty well. It can take some super effective hits, especially from the weaker side.
It's not going to take a Leaf Storm from a powerful grass type.
We'll see about that. Mega Lopunny is ridiculously strong and fast, and it can tank some hits that people don't know it can tank. I can lead witness to this, but it can take a variety of moves. Dragalge is incredibly strong. A lot of people underestimate it, but the typing is amazing. The dual stabs is nearly unresisted. Tangrowth with the Regenerator.
Have you heard of a Steel type? There's a thing called Steel types.
I did say nearly unresisted.
Fair enough.
He does have some good Regenerator mons, Tornadus Terrian and Tangrowth, and Reuniclus, I forgot Reuniclus. And I do think there are some mons on his team that he's not really going to use all that lot, including Regirock and Rotom. But I do think that having a great 7 or 8 mon draft is better than having an average 11 mon draft.
I can see where you're coming from. I think he will use Rotom a decent amount. It is his spin blocker, and it is his Volt Switcher, which makes a Volt Switch core with Tornadus Therian. The mon I don't think he's going to use that often is Typhlosion. It's meh. Typhlosion's meh.
I definitely see that, especially with the power that you have in Tornadus Therian. And he does have the Flamethrower coverage from Zoroark if he needs a Fire type, and I do think the Nasty Plot from Zoroark is a little bit better to his team than just the Choice Specs or Choice Scarf Eruptions from Typhlosion.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he trades in Typhlosion for some sort of hazard removal, or a Keldeo for that matter, because he already does have a fighting and water type with Mega Lopunny and Suicune.
Alright. Well, that moves us to number 5.
Number 5 for my list is going to be the Iowa Focus Energies, which we just talked a little bit about. Overall, I think his team is very, very, very hyper offensive. He doesn't have too many good walls, but he has enough mons that could function as a wall to work. Things like Togekiss, Donphan, Shaman, Licky, Lantern, even Hydreigon can function as a pretty good wall. And then his offensive pressure, it's through the roof. Weavile is a great physically offensive mon, and Hariyama is a great wall breaker. And mons like Starmie, Shaman, and Mega Charizard Y have very powerful stabs and will punch holes in non-special walls. And even Charizard Y can actually be run mix. So I forget who has Heatran, but whoever does, oh wait, no, it's Ty. So he's better watch out for those earthquakes from Charizard Y, because Charizard Y still has a decent attack stat.
Oh, definitely. It's not perfectly mixed like Charizard X, but the higher special attack does make for a lot more wall break potential. Those Fire Blasts in the Sun will break almost any special wall. But next up is my number 5, and just the Heatran we're talking about, Ty, the Atlanta Braviary.
I just want to make one more note about the Iowa Focus Energies. They were actually robbed of actually getting to the playoffs last season because of a haxy match. I think this season, though, he can actually make a pretty decent playoff run. He's in a pretty good division, and overall, I think he'll do... Sorry about that. We just had to do a little intermission just to fix a few things. Anyway, Damon, you were talking about your number 5?
I was, but with that horrible transition, I'm not sure I can anymore.
Yeah, come on, man. Come on.
All right. This is the disgusting team, the team that made many enemies that day.
So many enemies.
For those of you who don't know, he drafted Mew, Mega Sableye, Hippowdon, Cresselia, Vaporeon, Chestnut, Noivern, his first offensive mon, about 7 mons in, Stoutland, Heatran, Electros, and Weezing.
I think about 10 babies just cried.
I think it was more than that.
And an old man died as well.
No, I'm making fun of him, but it's a very, very solid draft, and I think if he figures out how to play with it, it'll be great. He has incredible walls, and almost all of them have incredibly reliable recovery. The only one not being Heatran and Weezing. Reliable recovery is great in walls, especially these who are as bulky as they are. Usually you see reliable recovery in only slightly less tanky mons, but Mega Sableye is incredibly tanky. The Calm Mindset is very, very viable. Just watch out for the taunts don't work because of the magic bounce. I think that when he runs his mons as bulky attackers, and the sweeping potential from Stoutland and Noivern is used effectively, he can almost wall and rip through anything.
I do agree with you. He did draft a very solid bulky team and made plenty of enemies that day, but I'll talk about that later on. My number 4 pick is actually the Philly Shuckles, the last of the newcomers, and he drafted a pretty interesting Rain team. It doesn't depend on Rain, but Rain is definitely an option for him. He's drafted Politoed, Mega Venusaur, Jirachi, Rotom Wash, Crocodile, Tornadus Eye, Slurpuff, Gourgeist, Cobalion, Kingdra, and Flygon. This team is overall pretty good, honestly. It's just a very solid team. It's a Rain team, but it doesn't depend on it. With things like Kingdra, it can sweep with Rain, as well as not even use Rain. You can just use Politoed as a special defensive mon to pair up with Mega Venusaur, or you can just drop Politoed and go with Rotom Wash to help him out with that. He does have a lot of duplicate typings, but I think these are the duplicate typings that are fine because they not only function as different roles, but they also have support from the other mons to kind of hinder the weaknesses. The Rain hinders the weaknesses that his two Steel types, Jirachi and Cobalion, have, as well as him having things like Tornadus Eye and Flygon to take the ground type attacks. Overall, I feel like this team is just an overall solid team. I think he's going to do really well. He's in a division of all newcomers. Pokepiece of the Jackson Jump Bluffs, and Gzus of the Denver Dashers. And overall, I think he actually has a pretty good shot at making playoffs. And also, Slurpuff is the ultimate wild card.
Alright, well, I can talk about why I love this draft later, but now I must talk about the man who hates walls, Fiddlesticks, George of the Toronto Tyrantrums.
The champion of last season.
Champion of last season, which I did not know. He drafted Heracross, Mega Scizor, Victini, Vandabuzz, Porygon Z, Slowking, Tyrantrum, Granbull, Clefable, Luxray, and Registeel. There's not a whole lot to be said about this. He has incredible wall-breaking potential, and that's really good because when you have wall-breaking potential, that means the mon is strong on itself. So he only needs to bring a few wall breakers, and it is a little bit heavy on the physical side, but a lot of people forget how potent Victini's special set is. It has a lot more coverage that it doesn't normally have in its physical side, including Energy Ball and Dazzling Gleam, which put in a lot of work in these league formats where dragon types are so common. And, there's not a whole lot to be said about it. He doesn't have a whole lot of hazard control, but I don't see that being too much of an issue since he doesn't have a whole lot of weaknesses to it. And
the only one being Victini.
He has some really good walls with Generators, Slowking. Granbull with the Intimidator is a lot bulkier than people give it credit for, and Clefable is an absolute monster to try and break through. Registeel is a great counter sweeper, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, he only has two weaknesses to rocks, which are Victini and Mandibuzz, one of which can actually get rid of rocks, so, that's fine.
And his main method of getting rid of those rocks, might I add.
Yeah. So, going to number 3, let's go back to that bulky, cry yourself to sleep team, the Atlanta Braviaries. I like it. I really do like this team, even if it is a stally, hoary mess.
As an analyst, it's pretty easy to look at it without crying on the inside.
Yeah, because we don't have to face that.
Face it is a whole other story.
Yeah, we don't have to face that, so we don't have to cry. Although I do think while he was drafting that, some of us did shed tears. Anyway, I want to go back to last season. Talked about a team called the Texas Rhyhorns. They were only there for about 3 games until they had to leave due to time constraints. But they drafted similarly to Ty, where they drafted a bulky team. But here's the thing: the bulk they drafted couldn't hit back. They didn't have enough mons that could really hit back in order to do that. Not just offensive mons, just also bulky mons that had the power to hit back. I don't see that problem with Ty. Mega Sableye is very good, can set up Calm Minds, and can destroy people with its Dark Pulse and Shadow Ball. Hippowdon actually has a pretty presentable attack set, and its Earthquakes will do a lot to two mons that don't resist or are immune to it. Cresselia, yeah, it's kind of piss poor with that setup, so never mind about that. Vaporeon has the ability to Skull Burn, and Baton Pass into something a lot stronger, so yeah. Chestnut has very respectable attack, has a wide range of moves. It can be run both defensive and offensive, and it can also run Belly Drum, and that's always fun. Nova and Stoutland are offensive mons, so they don't really count. Heatran can be run offensively with things like Scarf or Specs, or Life Orb, and it has enough move pool variety to where it can be used well, and Weezing's kind of just bulky, and you don't have to worry about that. I think he's gonna, and lastly, I think he's gonna run Mew very versatilely. That's not a word.
It's totally a word. It's a Pokemon word.
In a lot of versatile ways, I mean, not versatilely, but I think he's most likely going to put Mew in either a setup sweeper or a choice user role. He's not going to run the bulky set that often because he does have Cresselia to run that bulky psychic type role. So overall, I think his team is going to be used really well. I think he's going to make playoffs. The division he ends a little bit weaker than the other divisions in my opinion. He's not in the newbie division, but he is in a division with the Middle Earth Mortars and the South Park Electros. Not saying that they aren't competitors. I'm just saying that I do think Ty has the better team out of the two of them.
Definitely. That's just one of the other reasons that I love it so much. He said when he franchised Mew that he hoped to use it a lot better this season. I think he has a team to do it. Mew isn't really forced into a defensive or offensive role based on his team. It can really run any different set it wants, and any different set that he really needs that week. So, again, just a great thing. And something that should be mentioned, he has a very potent Sandstorm potential with Mew, Powdon, and Stoutland.
Very
also,
much so.
Heatran being immune.
Yeah, so overall, I think he's gonna do fine. I think he's gonna do really well, and I hope to see him in the playoffs.
Well, that's enough about the bulk. I'm gonna move on to my number 3 pick, which is the DMR Shadow Absol. Is the biggest difference pick that was different between us.
Yeah.
You said Cedric didn't do very well last season, but I actually really like this team.
The team is Latios, Mega Altaria, Bisharp, Staraptor, Nidoqueen, Azelf, Ditto, Quagsire, Thundurus, Incarnate, Jellicent, and Stelgor. Sorry we didn't mention that earlier.
Yeah, I really just like this team. Every pick, he was intentionally going for the hyper offense, and every pick he made was intentional, and I love it. Ditto is great. It can scout out the different sets and allow him to know if he can sweep or not. So Nidoqueen was better. He could have picked Nidoking at that point, but the extra book from Nidoqueen is perfect on his team. Staraptor has Intimidate and also has Sweeping. He has so much sweep potential, and it puts on so much pressure on the opponent. And just the fact that Jellicent can easily get itself back up, and so can Quagsire. He can take almost anything he'll need to take with some sort of resisting move, and then be able to instantly fire right back with the power of Latios, the sweeping potential of Mega Altaria, or just full switch U-turn core from Azelf, Thundurus Incarnate, and Excelgor.
I will admit he does have a good amount of power this season. The problem is I'm not sure how well he's going to use it.
Well, again, I wasn't here last season, so I can't exactly inspect his abilities until later, but I believe that if he plays right, he'll just be able to overwhelm opponents' teams, and they won't be able to do a whole lot to stop it.
Fair enough. Alright, so I guess we better move on to our number 2. So, my number 2 is the Chelsea Shandies. Their team is Gengar, Mega Gardevoir, Landorus Therian, Feraligatr, Snorlax, Umbreon, Hitmontop, Vileplume, Entei, Salamence, and Togetic. I do like this team. I do like this team a lot. It is a very good team. It's got some very good walls and things like Snorlax, Umbreon, Hitmontop, Landorus Therian if he wants to, Salamence if he wants to, and very good sweeping potential in things like Gengar, Entei, setup potential with things like Mega Gardevoir, Salamence, Feraligatr. Overall, I think there's a lot of mons on this team that can be used really well, and I think he got good value picks. I think Vileplume is a pretty good value pick as his grass type and poison type, and I think it's very underrated. Also, Umbreon is one of the most annoying clerics in the world, even more annoying than we'll see. Yeah, I said it. Come at me, guys. But anyway, the only pick I kind of don't like is Togetic because it kind of just feels like, you need to fill in a role, so you just drop that on. And he does have a pretty decently large ice weakness with things like Togetic, Salamence, and Landorus Therian. But he does have thick fat Snorlax and Feraligatr, and Entei. So I think he'd be able to mitigate that.
I also like the Chelsea Shandy's team, but next I'm going to talk about a team that I just love looking at on paper. The Philly Shuckles, you already went over the semi-rain team possibilities, but this is the prettiest team I've seen. Everything seems to mesh together so well. The rain is so perfect, and all you can think about is the rain, but honestly, none of the Mons on his team really need it. And I joked about Woody Holo during the draft, but Kingdra is honestly better. If it can set up outside of the rain, it can still do almost exactly what it needs to do inside of the rain. It still has massive power, and although he does have a few dual typings in Steel and Dragon, I think that he can just bring whatever he wants week in and week out, and he won't really be hindered by that. Mega Venusaur is an incredible wall on both sides. Politoed and Jirachi finish up a beautiful core that is going to be insanely difficult to break through. And just the power that he has on the rest of his team, and a good mix of bulky and offense, will, I think, create the second best team in the league.
I can see that. His team definitely does mesh well together. It's kind of just a perfect puzzle, but I do think that this is the first league he's in, first off, so that's something to take into consideration. And second off, I do think he is missing a few things like fire, which wouldn't really make sense on a fire team, but on a rain team. But since this is a semi-rain team, I think him drafting a fire type would have been fine. Overall, though, I do think he's gonna do fine, and I think his team looks really good, and I think he's gonna do pretty well. So let me get on to my number one pick, which
best of the best. Here we go.
If you guys know process of elimination, you guys know both of our number one picks at this point. But my number one pick, first off, is the league champion for the last season, the Toronto Tyrantrons, coached by Fiddlesticks.
No one likes a repeat.
You can't... Until he gets defeated, I'm not going to take him down from here. Until he gets defeated, I'm not going to take him down. But anyway, his team... I just love his team. It just looks fine. I mean, he does have a couple multiple typings, but I don't think they really hinder him that much. His multiple typings being Grand Bull, Clefable, and Heracross Mega Scizor. I think he can do fine with that. Heracross can be Guts or Choice Banded. Scizor can be Swords Dance or defensive. Grand Bull can be defensive or offensive. Clefable could be Calm Mind or Cleric. He has both good offense and defense with things like Mandibuzz, Clefable, Luxray, Registeel, Slowking being defensive, and then mons like Victini, Porygon Z, Tyrantrum being offensive. I really do like this team a lot. One thing I would change is maybe figure out a way to get a grass type in, because he doesn't have a grass type yet. Maybe replace Grand Bull with a grass type. But either way, I think this team is going to do well. We've seen in past seasons that Mariner has done really well, and I overall just I can't move him down from one until he loses. Like his team looks good, and he's proven that he plays well. So until he slips up, I'm not going to move him.
Well, I can see it as a future, and I see him being defeated by a man named Mikey Flame, coach of the Chelsea Shandies, and my number one draft this season. I love everything about this draft. You already talked about it and gave it pretty glowing reviews, but I'm here to spice it up some more. He's got a perfect mix of speed and bulk. Landorus, Terrian, Gardevoir, and Gengar is an incredible offensive core, and it has a lot of bulk. Umbreon, like you stated, is really annoying, but the biggest thing is that his only weakness that can really be exploited is fighting. And Landorus, Terrian, Gengar, and Mega Gardevoir back that up so well. He has wall-breaking potential and a whole lot of power.
Well, Umbreon can be hit by fairy types. Well,
I mean, that's true. I don't see a whole lot of powerful fairy types besides Mega Altaria, because he did draft that Mega Gardevoir. Again, another thing that I love about his team. Snorlax is a lot bulky than people give it credit for, especially if he can set up a first or two. Togetic is also very bulky, and he has a lot of things to take knockoffs. Mega Gardevoir holding Mega Stone also is neutral to that knockoff and won't do a whole lot. There's just so much I love about this team, and I can't get all of it out, but great hazard control is another thing to look up. Togetic with Defog and Rapid Spin out of the Hitmontop.
I want to say something, though, about Hitmontop. I have never seen Hitmontop in PICA, in any other league I've been, in any other league I've watched, Hitmontop be used well. So it would be interesting to see Mikey use Hitmontop to its fullest potential.
Well, prepare to be impressed. Mikey, I'm putting my faith in you. That's going to end up my little rankings, though.
As will it end up mine. So, if you guys disagree with our rankings, which you probably do, because we are all different, and we all have different opinions.
I'm clearly stupid.
Yeah, we're both stupid. But anyway, put them in the comments below. Tear us apart if you really want to. Please be gentle though.
Don't worry about it.
And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this rankings. Damon will continue producing them on his own while I do the weekly recaps. Socrates will take over the rankings whenever he comes back, if he does. But who
Whenever
knows?
possible.
Yeah. So with that being said, I've been Redman80,
I'm Damon.
and we will see you guys in the next video.
Alright, see ya.
Goodbye.